The government has been conducting secret experiments for decades, and what we now know about them sounds like something straight out of a spy thriller. Mind control programs, invisibility technology, weather manipulation, and weapons that defy physics. For years, anyone who suggested these things existed was called a conspiracy theorist. Then, the documents were declassified. What you're about to hear isn't speculation or rumor. These are real programs confirmed by official government records that were hidden from the public for years, sometimes decades. Some will make you question what else might still be classified. Others will make you question what reality even means anymore. I'm Mike with List 25, and these are 25 declassified government projects that sound like science fiction. By number 5, you'll wonder what they're still hiding. 25. Project MKUltra, the CIA's mind control program. Between 1953 and 1973, the CIA conducted experiments on unwitting American citizens in an attempt to develop mind control techniques. Project MKUltra involved LSD dosing, psychological torture, hypnosis, and sensory deprivation, often on subjects who had no idea they were being experimented on. The program was so expansive that it operated across 80 institutions, including universities and hospitals. When Congress finally investigated in 1977, CIA Director Richard Helms had already ordered the destruction of most MKUltra files. What survived revealed only a fraction of what occurred. Victims included prisoners, mental patients, and ordinary citizens who were drugged without consent, some of whom died or suffered permanent psychological damage. Mind control was just the beginning. At number 19, we'll reveal a program designed to literally see the future. 24. Operation Paperclip, importing Nazi scientists. After World War II, the United States secretly recruited over 1,600 Nazi scientists, engineers, and technicians through Operation Paperclip. Many had been members of the Nazi Party, and some had committed war crimes. Their expertise was considered too valuable to lose to the Soviet Union. Wernher von Braun, who developed the rockets that would eventually take Americans to the moon, was one of them. He had been an SS officer who used slave labor from concentration camps to build V-2 rockets. His war crimes were covered up, his records were sanitized, and he became an American hero. The program remained classified until 1998. 23. The Stargate Project, Psychic Spies. From 1978 to 1995, the US military and CIA spent $20 million investigating remote viewing, the alleged ability to psychically perceive distant locations. The program was called Stargate, and it wasn't a joke. Trained psychics were used to attempt to locate hostages, identify secret facilities, and gather intel on Soviet weapons. The most shocking part? Some results were reportedly accurate enough to be operationally useful. While the program was eventually shut down for inconsistent results, the CIA has acknowledged that certain viewers produced information they couldn't explain through conventional means. The full results remain partially classified. 22. Project SHAMROCK, monitoring all international communications. Beginning in 1945 and lasting until 1975, Project SHAMROCK gave the NSA access to every single international telegram entering or leaving the United States. Companies like Western Union, ITT, and RCA Global handed over copies of all communications, without warrants, without oversight, and in complete violation of privacy laws. At its peak, the program intercepted 150,000 messages per month. When it was finally exposed by the Church Committee in 1975, it was described as, quote, probably the largest government interception program affecting Americans ever undertaken. It was the precursor to the modern surveillance apparatus that wouldn't be revealed until Edward Snowden's leaks in 2013. 21. Operation Acoustic Kitty, the Spy Cat. In the 60s, the CIA spent $20 million attempting to turn a cat into a living surveillance device. Operation Acoustic Kitty involved surgically implanting a microphone in a cat's ear canal, a radio transmitter at the base of its skull, and a thin antenna woven into its fur. The idea was that the cat could eavesdrop on Soviet conversations without arousing suspicion. The first field test was a disaster. The cat was reportedly hit by a taxi almost immediately after being released near the Soviet embassy in Washington. The project was abandoned and it remained classified until 2001. Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction. A spy cat sounds ridiculous, but wait until you hear about the Dolphins. That's at number 16. 20. Operation Midnight Climax. CIA-run brothels. As part of MKUltra, the CIA operated secret brothels in San Francisco and New York, where unwitting subjects were dosed with LSD and other drugs while agents watched through one-way mirrors. The program, called Operation Midnight Climax, used prostitutes to lure men into safe houses where their reactions to various substances could be observed. The operation ran from 1954 to 1966, entirely without consent or legal oversight. Test subjects had no idea they were being drugged. The prostitutes were paid by the CIA, and the agents involved were reportedly given free rein to experiment with any substance they wished. Some subjects suffered lasting psychological trauma. The true number of victims is unknown. 19. Project Scanate. Remote viewing military targets. Before Stargate, there was Scanate, the original remote viewing program that began in 1972. Unlike later iterations that had mixed results, Scanate produced some genuinely unexplainable successes. In one test, psychic Ingo Swann was given only coordinates, no other information, and accurately described a secret NSA facility that even most government officials didn't know existed. The coordinates led to a classified site in West Virginia. Swann described the facility's purpose, its layout, and even code words used internally, information that was verified as accurate and had never been publicly disclosed. The incident was documented in official CIA files that were later declassified. No conventional explanation was ever provided. 18. Operation Mockingbird, the CIA's media control. From the 50s through the 70s, the CIA systematically infiltrated major American news organizations through Operation Mockingbird. The program recruited journalists, editors, and media executives to plant stories, suppress unfavorable coverage, and shape public perception on behalf of the agency. At its height, Mockingbird had influence over 25 major newspapers and wire agencies. Journalists were paid to publish CIA-approved content as legitimate news. The program was partially exposed in 1975, but the full extent of media infiltration has never been publicly disclosed. Some researchers believe similar programs continue today under different names. 17. Project Artichoke, creating involuntary assassins. Before MKUltra, there was Artichoke, a program specifically designed to determine whether someone could be programmed to assassinate a target and have no memory of doing so. The project ran from 1951 to 1953 and used hypnosis, forced drug addiction, and psychological torture to attempt to create Manchurian Candidate-style killers. Declassified documents revealed that subjects were asked under hypnosis whether they would be willing to kill the president. The program also investigated whether memories could be entirely erased after an operation, leaving the assassin with no knowledge of what they had done. Whether any subjects were actually deployed in operations remains classified. 16. The Navy Marine Mammal Program, Dolphin Soldiers. Since 1960, the U.S. Navy has trained dolphins and sea lions for military operations. The Navy Marine Mammal Program isn't just about research. These animals have been deployed in actual combat zones. Dolphins have guarded nuclear submarines, located underwater mines, and allegedly been trained to kill enemy divers. The program's offensive capabilities are still classified, but declassified documents confirm that dolphins were equipped to deliver packages to underwater targets. Former trainers have alleged the packages included explosives and dart devices. The program remains active today, with dolphins deployed as recently as the Iraq War. Military animals are one thing, but wait until you hear about the weather control program. That's at number 11. 15. The Tuskegee Syphilis Study, Medical Betrayal. From 1932 to 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service conducted an experiment on 400 black men with syphilis in Tuskegee, Alabama. The men were told they were receiving free treatment, but they were actually left untreated so researchers could study the disease's progression. Even after penicillin became the standard cure, treatment was deliberately withheld. The study only ended when a whistleblower leaked information to the press in 1972. By then, 28 men had died directly of syphilis, 100 had died of related complications, 40 spouses had been infected, and 19 children had been born with congenital syphilis. The government didn't officially apologize until 1997. 14. Operation Northwoods. Planned false flag attacks. In 1962, the Joint Chiefs of Staff proposed Operation Northwoods, a plan to commit terrorist attacks against American citizens and blame them on Cuba to justify military intervention. Proposed operations included hijacking planes, sinking boats, and orchestrating violent terrorism in U.S. cities. The plan called for the CIA to commit genuine acts of terrorism against Americans, create fake casualty lists, and stage show funerals for the victims. President Kennedy rejected the proposal, and chairman of the Joint Chiefs, Lyman Lemnitzer, was removed from his position shortly after. The documents were declassified in 1997, confirming what had been dismissed as conspiracy theory for decades. 13. Project Blue Book, the UFO cover-up. From 1952 to 1969, the U.S. Air Force investigated over 12,600 UFO sightings through Project Blue Book. The official conclusion was that most sightings could be explained as misidentifications or natural phenomena. But declassified documents tell a different story. Internal memos reveal that incredible sightings by military pilots were deliberately downplayed for public consumption. The program's stated goal was to reduce public interest in UFOs, not to genuinely investigate them. Over 700 cases were classified as unexplained, even after investigation. What the Air Force actually knew, or believed, about these sightings remains partially classified. 12. The Manhattan Project. Building the bomb in secret. At its peak, the Manhattan Project employed over 125,000 people across multiple facilities in the United States. Most had no idea what they were building. The project to develop the atomic bomb was so secret that even Vice President Harry Truman didn't know about it until after FDR died and he became president. Workers at Oak Ridge, Tennessee, processed uranium without knowing its purpose. Scientists compartmentalized their work so that only a handful understood the complete picture. The project cost $2 billion, which is equivalent to $28 billion today, and was hidden entirely from Congress, funded through classified budget lines. When the bomb was finally used on Hiroshima, most workers learned what they built from the news. 11. Operation Popeye. Weaponized weather. From 1967 to 1972, the U.S. military conducted cloud seeding operations over Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia to extend the monsoon season and disrupt enemy supply lines. Operation Popeye seeded clouds with silver iodide and lead iodide, increasing rainfall by an estimated 30%. The operation successfully turned roads to mud and caused landslides that blocked enemy movements. When it was revealed by journalists in 1972, public outrage led to the Environmental Modification Convention of 1978 banning weather warfare. But the technology proved weather could be weaponized, and other nations took note. If weather control sounds advanced, wait until you hear what they were doing with electromagnetic weapons. That's at number 6. 10. Project MONARCH, the trauma-based mind control program. Project MONARCH is allegedly a successor to MKUltra that used trauma-based techniques to create dissociative identity disorder in subjects, allowing handlers to program alternate personalities for specific tasks. While officially denied by the government, multiple alleged victims have come forward with consistent accounts. What makes MONARCH difficult to dismiss is that the techniques it allegedly used, extreme trauma creating dissociative states, are established psychiatric phenomena. The program supposedly targeted children, using abuse to fragment personalities that could then be individually programmed. No documents have been declassified confirming MONARCH specifically, but MKUltra documents reference children as test subjects, and the techniques described by alleged victims align with known research from that era. 9. Operation LAC. Spraying cities with bacteria. In the 50s and 60s, the US military conducted biological weapons tests on its own citizens without their knowledge or consent. Operation LAC, large area coverage, released supposedly harmless bacteria over cities including San Francisco, Minneapolis, and St. Louis to study how biological weapons would disperse. In San Francisco, the Navy sprayed Serratia marcescens bacteria from a ship offshore. 11 people were hospitalized with rare infections, and 1 man died. The military initially claimed the bacteria was harmless, but later research showed it could cause infections in immunocompromised individuals. The full extent of these tests wasn't revealed until Senate hearings in 1977. 8. COINTELPRO, the FBI's war on civil rights. From 1956 to 1971, the FBI conducted a systematic campaign to expose, disrupt, misdirect, discredit, or otherwise neutralize domestic political organizations it deemed subversive. COINTELPRO targeted civil rights leaders, anti-war activists, feminist organizations, and anyone the Bureau considered a threat to the status quo. Tactics included illegal surveillance, planting false stories in the media, sending anonymous letters to create paranoia and division, and encouraging violence between groups. The FBI sent Martin Luther King Jr. a letter suggesting he take his own life. The program was only exposed when activists broke into an FBI office and leaked documents to the press. 7. The Philadelphia Experiment. Invisibility research. According to declassified Navy documents and witness accounts, the USS Eldridge was subjected to an experiment in 1943 attempting to render it invisible to radar, and possibly to the naked eye. The alleged Philadelphia experiment reportedly went terribly wrong, with the ship briefly disappearing and crew members being fused with the vessel's structure. While officially dismissed as a hoax, the Navy did conduct extensive degaussing experiments to make ships invisible to magnetic mines around that time. Witnesses claim to have seen the ship vanish from Philadelphia and reappear in Norfolk, Virginia before returning, badly damaged with traumatized crew. The truth remains buried under layers of classification and denial. 6. Project Pandora. Microwave mind effects. From the 60s through the 70s, Project Pandora researched the behavioral effects of microwave radiation after the Soviets were caught beaming microwaves at the US Embassy in Moscow. The Moscow signal had been irradiating American diplomats for years, causing health problems that were initially covered up. Pandora's research confirmed that microwave radiation could affect brain function, alter moods, and even induce sounds perceived as voices in subjects' heads, the Frey effect. The full findings remain classified, but the research laid groundwork for what we now call directed energy weapons, technology that has been allegedly used in the recent Havana syndrome incidents affecting US diplomats. If microwave weapons sound like science fiction, wait until you hear about the time the government tried to build a flying saucer. That's at number 3. 5. Operation Gladio. NATO's secret armies. From the end of World War II through at least the 90s, NATO operated secret stay-behind armies throughout Western Europe. These clandestine forces were meant to conduct guerrilla warfare in case of Soviet invasion, but in several countries, they were allegedly used to conduct terrorist attacks and blame them on communist groups. In Italy, Gladio operatives have been linked to bombings, kidnappings, and assassinations throughout the years of lead. When the program was exposed in 1990, it was confirmed to have existed in virtually every NATO country. The full extent of its operations, and what it might have evolved into, remains classified in most participating nations. 4. Project Starfish Prime. Nuclear explosions in space. On July 9, 1962, the US detonated a 1.4 megaton nuclear weapon 250 miles above the Pacific Ocean. Project Starfish Prime was designed to study the effects of high-altitude nuclear explosions. and the results were far more dramatic than anticipated. The electromagnetic pulse knocked out streetlights and telephone service in Hawaii, 900 miles away. It created an artificial radiation belt that disabled several satellites. The aurora from the blast was visible for 3,000 miles. The test was part of a series that would eventually lead to the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, as both superpowers realized they were about to permanently damage the space environment. 3. Project 1794, the Flying Saucer. In the 50s, the US Air Force secretly contracted with a Canadian company to build an actual flying saucer. Project 1794 aimed to create a supersonic disc-shaped aircraft that could take off vertically and reach speeds of Mach 3 at altitudes above 100,000 feet. The project was eventually declassified in 2012, revealing detailed plans and a working prototype. The saucer proved to be highly unstable and could barely hover 3 feet off the ground, but the project raises a question. If the government was willing to spend millions developing disc-shaped craft in secret, how much of the UFO phenomenon might have been test flights of classified aircraft? 2. Operation Northwoods' predecessors, a pattern of deception. Operation Northwoods wasn't the first time the government considered manufacturing crises to justify military action. Declassified documents reveal a pattern stretching back decades. The Gulf of Tonkin incident, which justified the Vietnam War, was later revealed to be based on events that never actually occurred as reported. The incubator baby testimony that helped justify the Gulf War was fabricated. These aren't conspiracy theories. They're documented history. That pattern suggests that what was proposed in Northwoods wasn't an anomaly, but part of an ongoing approach to foreign policy. What similar operations might have succeeded without ever being exposed? 1. What's still classified? The known unknowns. Here's the most unsettling truth of all. Everything on this list was classified for decades before we learned about it. Mind control programs, false flag proposals, weather weapons, psychic spies, all were officially denied or dismissed as paranoid fantasy before documents proved they were real. The US government currently has over 50 million classified documents, with more added every day. The average classification period is 25 years, but many documents remain sealed indefinitely. If programs this disturbing have been revealed, what programs are still hidden? What experiments are happening right now that won't be declassified until we're dead? The most important lesson from these declassified projects isn't what we now know. It's the reminder of how much we still don't know, and the certainty that reality is far stranger than what we're allowed to see. The projects you've just learned about aren't speculation, they're documented history. Mind control experiments, manufactured crises, weather weapons, and surveillance programs that would have seemed impossible were all real, all funded by your tax dollars, and all hidden from you for decades. The next time someone dismisses an uncomfortable idea as a conspiracy theory, remember, many of the programs on this list were dismissed the exact same way, until the documents were declassified. If you want more content that challenges what you thought you knew, make sure to subscribe here to List 25 and hit that notification bell. Leave a comment below. Which of these projects surprised you the most? Until next time, stay curious, and maybe a little skeptical.